Right, I think this is going to be a session where I just throw different things to wrap up that have come up in the last part of the afternoon. And I'll start with Matthew Lumsden. Matthew, welcome. Now, Connected Energy makes batteries and delivers battery technology, correct, on an industrial scale?
Kind of, yeah. We don't make batteries. We develop and develop storage systems that use second life batteries. So those are on a commercial scale, moving into utility scale now.
Excellent.
So we kind of extend the life of an EV battery by about double its life. So moving an additional 8 years, I guess.
I hosted the Make UK conference about the energy last year, about a year ago. And there was a similar company that was talking about industrial scale batteries. And there was a marker given on the price. It was £1,000 per megawatt approximately. Is that the kind of price that's sustained over the last year for these kind of batteries?
So there's a big dynamic. So we're expecting a big hockey stick to happen. So the sale of second life batteries has been at quite a high price to date, but that's probably going to it'll quarter in the next couple of years. And really, when you're looking at second life in energy storage, you're looking at a completely different business model. So batteries are provided as a service, and it's more like a sort of tolling or a energy from waste type model, where the batteries are fed into a facility, and then you monetize them. So sort of working on a capex figure for per kilowatt hour is really difficult because it will depend a lot on the revenue model for any particular market.
And what about the batteries used by these second use ones? What are they primarily used for? Is it emergency support, or is it supplementary power, or first grade power?
So at the moment we're relatively small scale, so we supply them for industrial and commercial sites, and that's for optimizing your energy mix, reducing your costs, peak shaving. A lot of them are providing flexibility into the grid, but I think the long-term opportunity is more around energy shifting, probably co-located with wind farms and PV, but it very much depends on what part of the world you're trading, I suppose.
I feel like a pioneer because I've got 12 solar panels and a 5 megawatt battery at home, and it's half my electricity bill. Now, have you scaled that up? Will it actually do that kind of thing on a commercial scale?
So one of our battery suppliers, we're looking at placing the best part of a gigawatt hour before 2030. So these will move into very large scale systems. And of course, the challenge is the vehicles are in different locations. So you've got to create the technology, the business model, where the batteries are, so that you're not increasing the carbon footprint.
Okay. Now, Robert Pell, you've come from the company, one of our sponsors as well, so we should mention Minviro. Now, you have a number of geologists and engineers and tech specialists working on projects that involve a lot of these minerals we've been discussing today. What kind of projects are you now getting involved with?
So yeah, we work right just about each from material uses and benefit within the critical material space, but we also work in the energy transition technology space. So with cell manufacturers, cathode producers, battery recyclers. And what we're doing is we're measuring the environmental impact. So using an approach called life cycle assessment. I think it was quoted a few times this morning about the carbon footprint of these different processing routes. But measuring is just the first point. It's really what our team's passionate about is helping these companies identify the hotspots and reduce impacts over time.
Now, when you look at the life cycle analysis, we heard, I think it was Amanda talking about no particular format is going to win. It's going to be horses for courses. But are the life cycles very, very different? And how do you compare prices? How do you get some standardization?
Is a good question. A good question on standardization. I'll start by saying every production route is different. We with a few different carbon intensities of just geothermal or hard rock or maybe just typical brine. But the reality is every deposit is different. I'm a geologist as background, so the mineralogy is very important for economics and processing. But it's also a dictator of the environmental impact as well. But there's other factors as well that come into play, like, the background infrastructure. Are you lucky enough to have renewable energy to feed your processes, or are you reliant on coal? So, yeah, it's really varied. And we're lucky enough to be in a stage of development in this energy transition where we can influence a lot of those decisions. So with a lot of the critical material projects in development, we can, decide to adopt, pay a bit more for renewable energy or novel approaches like using hydrogen in certain processes.
And just before we leave questioning you, where are your projects located? Are all Britain, or are you going around the world?
Yeah, it's very extensive around the world. So, we work with one of our major OEM clients is Tesla, and they tasked us to map their entire battery supply chain, and that includes not just their only produced batteries, but their other suppliers. And so this really means we've got offices in Australia and in China. So we really cover the whole world, and we follow where the materials are produced in those supply chains.
I think that one of the interesting things we started at the beginning talking about world-beating clusters, potentially exporting some of the produced technologies that can develop wind farms. We also have an export of know-how in this country, though. There is a global set of expertise that goes around the world.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think, there's more than just the direct companies. There's a lot of supporting consultancies, knowledge and technology developers that can really be exported globally. And, my background was originally in Cornwall, a centre of the mining industry from, a century ago. And interestingly, you go to mines around the world and you still see sort of replicas of Cornish pasties to show the export potential of the UK.
Excellent. Now, let's bring in Vikki Jeckell from Tees Valley Lithium. Now, the company's called Tees Valley Lithium, but you are also in Australia. So how does the different where the places you work link up? What's the commonality?
So I'm representing Tees Valley Lithium, and a bit like obviously Richard earlier on talking about green lithium, we are a merchant refiner for lithium products, and we have a slightly different sort of strategy than others. And we firmly believe that you should do the right processing in the right place. And so our philosophy and our strategy is meant that we are looking at the first stage of lithium processing, so a spodumene hard rock to a lithium sulfate, an intermediate product, doing that close to the mines. So, for those, there's geologists out there, I'm not one, but we know that the ore, it's a low concentration of lithium. So what you're actually moving when you're shipping that across is you're shipping a lot of waste, a lot of material. So the idea is we do that first process closer to the mines in that area. We produce an intermediate product, and then we bring that across to the UK. And that's where we then utilise the UK sort of knowledge and know-how from a chemical perspective, and doing that final refining and convert that into the battery grade products here in the UK.
Now, your facility is being built at the Wilton International Centre. Chris Rowell had a map of Teesside, and it was on there. What's its scale up? When's it going to be ready? When's it going to be produced?
Yeah, so we're actually aiming to be producing in 2026 at the site of Wilton. It is a scale-up plant, so in essence, we'll be starting with the first train that would produce roughly about 24,000 tonnes, and then adding a second train, a third and a fourth train, ultimately getting to 96,000 tonnes.
And there's quite a lot of jobs involved.
Yeah. So as with anything, there are obviously construction roles involved with each of the trains, and as we grow, we'll hopefully ultimately end up with roughly about 500 jobs in the region, and being able to support that. But the really important thing for us as well is looking at that sort of local supply chains, how we can do. So I'm a supply chain professional by trade. So I'm working with Tees Valley on what we can do with that, looking at it from both a sustainability perspective, but also just a regional sort of locality. There's lots of reagents that you need for these processes. So where are they produced? How can we support local economies? There's a lot of these chemicals that are going to need to be imported. So we're working with those chemical manufacturers to sort of increase their UK presence. We're looking at our waste products. We're developing a new technology that will ultimately try to reduce the waste products and help us produce new products. So in essence, we'll be able to produce things like sulfuric acid, which will be able to go back through into battery recycling, creating the whole sort of loop. So we're really trying to focus on how do we develop this. Because I'm very wary. I've got an electric car with solar panels. I'm fully in. I'm trying my hardest. But I'm very aware that everybody I speak to, I'm yet to talk to somebody about an electric car out there in the world and they go, that's great, I want one of them. Everybody's always, they're not quite convinced yet, or they think hydrogen is the way forward, or lots of different things there. And so, I feel it's I'm impassioned and feel it's my responsibility to do everything I can to try to make sure that we improve the sustainability side of it.
You also have good partners, not least Weardale Lithium, but also BP.
Yes, yeah. So, we have mentioned hydrogen. I actually worked in hydrogen infrastructure, previously working to help decarbonise a mine in South Africa as well. So we're really, really heavy on the opportunities that hydrogen provides for industry. So yeah, we've signed up with BP. We're really helping them hoping to obviously move forward and looking at how we can utilise hydrogen. And with Weardale, obviously working with Stuart and the rest of the team. We've just announced, we've got a grant where we're looking at how we can develop, and we're working together on how we can connect that supply chain. Again, bringing that that local aspect to it. So how can we use local material, refine it here, and then sell it on to hopefully UK bottlers.
Alex, you did say get credible partners. They got BP. That's pretty credible. Alice, I'm gonna wrap up by chatting with you for a moment. You were talking about don't come to us at the moment because it's difficult to get funding. Let's look at contemporaneously. What is the appetite of investors? It's the one gloomy thing that was said, but you said it was such a nice. I said it in such charming ways.
So we are currently in the market with 2 EIS and VCT qualifying transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole load of specific things, and you have to go to a specific advisor who will tell you whether you qualify for it. The funds, the VCT funds that can invest in those, still have significant inflows, and they're always short of opportunities. There have been a number of attempts to raise money for other businesses. So far, none of those have proven to work. And these conditions really, it really dates back. What's interesting about the London equity markets is they're always open for VCT and EIS. They are open a little bit for other things. This is not a uniquely UK phenomenon. This has happened pretty much globally. To give you an example, my Canadian colleague who does private side transactions in 2021 did 600. In 2022 did 1. So it's and what causes it? Who knows?
Is it fashion? Is it like that we had the .com boom and the .com bust in the 90s? Is it that kind of thing?
Ultimately, it's funds flows, but you will meet no 2 bankers who agree on the exact details.
All right. Okay. Well, you were very forward-looking, and you were very positive, because one of the things that you said when you expressed the contemporaneous issues is that you don't think it's there for the long term. Do you think that this market is going to ease?
Yes, and the reason we think this market is going to ease is partly because we're congenital optimists, because it's difficult to be a equity capital markets person without being that. But more importantly, because the clients, who are the institutional fund managers, are starting to get cash inflows. And generally, once they start to get cash inflows, it's not that long after that they start.
They're looking for places. Yeah, they're looking for the smart money is following the new tech. Is that right? Is that where it is? Is this still trendy?
I think the challenge for all these businesses, and I think it's come up repeatedly over the course of today, is that, what people want to invest in, what everyone would like to buy is something that reliably produces cash at almost no risk and costs them next to nothing. And if I had one of those, then I'd be selling lots of that too. But, you have to give on some of these things. And there has been a period, and I think it's a challenge for a lot of new energy businesses. They do tend to be very capital intensive up front. It tends to be a little while before they start generating cash. And because by their nature they're often novel technologies, it's not like a mining exploration play where you can always kind of say, oh, there's someone else going to buy it, or an oil and gas exploration play. You've got to believe that there is a technical success that then leads to a commercial success. And I think, I think I said one of the core reasons that investors invest in things is because it worked last time. And I'm old enough to remember, again, the first round of ARM being a huge success on the London stock market. And that prompted, I cannot count how many businesses who claimed they were running a licensing model because that had worked so well for ARM. So we must be doing the same thing as well. I don't think it worked for anybody else apart from them. So, but the point is that one success story opened up a whole world of being able to do a whole lot more. And that's really what we need.
Oh, that's great. And you were realistic and positive, and that's a great mix. Thank you very much.